Turn to our next scripture reading, which comes from the prophet Micah, chapter 5, verses 2 through 5. And you, O Bethlehem of Ephratah, least among the clans of Judah, from you shall come forth to rule Israel for me, one whose origin is from of old, from ancient times. Truly, he will leave them helpless until she who is to bear has borne. Then the rest of his countrymen shall return to the children of Israel. He shall stand and shepherd by the might of the Lord, by the power of the name of the Lord his God. And they shall dwell secure. For lo, he shall wax great to the ends of the earth, and that shall afford safety. The grass withers and the flower fades, but the word of the Lord lives forever. And this is the word of the Lord. All thanks be to God. Love, whose origin is from old, from long ago, from ancient times, yet love that's brand new. The prophet Micah, a prophet from many, many moons ago, described this love that came long before he did. And he was describing it. It was in the time right around the Assyrian Empire wiping out the northern kingdom. So that happened in 722 BCE. That was about 2,700 years ago. That love, which he was fully aware of and could still see present in the world in his time, was ancient in comparison to the world that he knew at that time. Love that was, love that is, and love that will be. You know, we experience it all the time. Taking it for granted, not appreciating it like we should. You know, if you're anything like me, you've spent a whole lot of time throughout your life dwelling on things that have happened in the past. You know, not so much like a healthy kind of reflecting on things that happened in the past, remembering and all that, but, you know, not processing, working through those things, but just dwelling on the past. Feeling guilty about this, feeling stupid about that, regretting and wishing that we'd made different choices, said something different, done something better, could have stopped this from happening, could have prevented that. Then, if we're not dwelling in the past, stressing about the future. What's going to happen if I lose my job? Or if my car dies? Or if my dog dies? You know, we can lock down rules and regulations and schedules real tight to make sure things go according to plan. Because if they don't, you know, everything's going to go wrong. What are we going to do when the economy crashes again? Or what about, you know, if the, you know, with the government might be shut down if we don't get funding for a wall? You know, thinking about the anxiety over a wall or no wall. You know, what if they do get funding and then the wall gets built and we're $500 billion more in debt? And then what if he doesn't get the funding and the wall doesn't get built? Oh no! What are we going to do? Trouble around every corner. Looking forward and preparing for the future is extremely important. And remembering the past is critical. Just saying, it's very common for us to be so consumed by the past and the future that we fail to see what's right in front of us. And I don't think I'm very alone in this. Last week, I talked some about our dog, Kimbo, dying. He was a cancer survivor. So he didn't mention that last week. A few years ago, he had this big tumor on his neck, and it was on his thyroid cancer. And then we got that checked out, got it removed, and oh, you should have seen the scar on his neck. He had a big old neck, and he had stitches all the way down. He looked like Frankenstein. You know, when he had that big old lump, that cancer on his neck, and then when he had the surgery, you'd never know there was anything wrong with him. He was just so in the moment. Oh, and he was a ladies' man, too. I'll tell you what. He was flirting with all those women working at the animal hospital, and they were just falling all over him. He ended up with a few more years on this earth because of that surgery, and every moment that he was alive, he was all in, every moment of every day. And well, that cancer he had, it must be what came back and got him. Really, the only evidence that he was sick at all was he was just losing interest in eating. That was strange for him. He was no slouch at eating. But otherwise, he was acting totally normal, fun-loving, goofy, smiling, wagging his tail, bouncing around, running into stuff, just being Kimbo. We've dwelled a lot on our lack of awareness while he was dying. We weren't thinking about the possibility of that cancer coming back. We were just trying different things to get him to eat more. But he was actually dying. Why weren't we running some kind of cancer screenings on him all the time? Could we have stopped the cancer? Could we have prevented him from dying? I don't have an answer to that. But while we were dwelling on the past, questioning ourselves, it struck us. If we did know we'd been putting him through chemo and all that stuff to fight off the cancer again, it would have been miserable for him. Then what if that didn't work anyway? And then we would have done nothing but cause his last days to be miserable. We realized that in our not knowing that we were in the moment with him. He was able to live every day happy and loving and goofy and in the moment as he wanted to be. Thinking about that reminds me of a movie called A Dog's Purpose. It's a serious roller coaster of joy and sadness, I will tell you what. Made us cry so much that we've only watched it one time. But in that movie, it's like this dog's spirit is reincarnated over and over, new dogs over time. First, it's this dog who finds a great home but falls victim to circumstance, ends up being euthanized at the dog pound. Trying to figure out the meaning of his life, he figures it must have been having fun. Born as a new dog in his new home, he comes to the new conclusion that, you know what, the meaning of life, it must be my owner. It's just everything about my owner. Then in the next life, he's a service dog, working every day, saving people, doing police work, until he's shot and killed in the line of duty. Thinking then that the meaning of his life must be working. Then he becomes a dog who brings happiness to his next owner as this younger college student, and they kind of grow up together before he gets older and dies. And then he realized from that, oh, you know what, maybe my purpose of my life was to bring happiness to people in the world. And then lastly, he ends up being this old mangy dog in an abusive home. And he escapes, and he winds back up with his owner from 50 years prior to that. And then he finally has this light bulb go off. He finally understands his true purpose is to be in the moment. Having fun, helping others, not getting caught up in the past and regrets, cherishing relationships you have right now, living for today, being in the moment. 700 years before Jesus was born, the prophet Micah turned to the people of Bethlehem, saying God's words, "And you, O Bethlehem of Ephratah, least among Judah, from you shall come forth to rule Israel for me, one whose origin is from old, from ancient times." And he covered all the bases in this proclamation he was giving them. In the future, a new leader will be born. But this is coming from the past. One who was already here, one who was here before the beginning of the world, and this one shall be like David, another legend of the past, faithful shepherd of Israel, and born in Bethlehem. In the future, this one will come to save us. But these words aren't really about the future or the past. These words are about who we are today. Micah preached to a community with many who'd gone astray, with many who fell to the lure of money and power. And then in that community, there were many others who were suffering because of this stuff. And then through Micah, God was making use of all the bases, all the time, the whole span of time, to shape people into who they needed to be in their own time. People with integrity, people filled with hope, filled with peace and joy, driven by love, living life to the fullest throughout the few years they had to spend on this earth. And God is doing the same thing for us right now. We human beings, we're the most advanced species on earth, most intelligent. We're the only ones who can create the stuff that we do, think rationally, and all this special stuff. Yet there's so much we could learn from a dog. In the midst of a crazy, busy season, or crazy, busy Christmas season, worn down by stress and anxiety over the future, feeling guilt and regret over the past, looking right over and missing what's so special about this moment right now. Through the prophet Micah, 2,700 years ago, God is speaking to us in this moment, saying, hey, you know that love that was? That love of mine that was here before creation itself, before the foundation of the world? You know that love that will be? That love of mine that will someday straighten things out and that will be here long after creation is gone. Cherish that love. Embrace that love. Live that love right now. Love is the driving force of what we hope for. Love is the source of peace we yearn for. Love is the inspiration for joy when everything else looks bleak. Love has been here forever. It is here now. And it will soon be born all over again. If we're letting it, that love is shaping us into who we need to be today and for the rest of our few years on this earth. That is the love we celebrate with candles, with prayers, with singing, with reading Scripture. God's ancient love in this very moment. God's love that was here before the foundation of the world. God's love that was up there on the cross. God's love that will be born in the manger, laid in the manger. That love that's in this very room.